Hey guys, this is Nick, and today we're doing another action figure review. This is the NECA Toys Alien Resurrection Newborn Alien. So this is a deluxe action figure. Really excited to finally get this. NECA Toys has had this license since 2007, and now, probably like 12, 13 years later, they're finally getting the Alien Resurrection, and they're finally giving us the newborn. They've given us figures from the first movie, the second movie, the third movie, the prequels, the crossover films. They've given us all the different variants and repaints. They've given us figures based on comics, video games, the Kenner toys, and now finally they're getting to this one. And the reason for it is it's a pretty infamous creature. A lot of people in the fandom do not like this film at all, and especially do not like this creature. And a lot of people don't like the movie just because of this creature. Personally, I like it a lot. I'm a 90s kid. I was born in 93, so I was probably around 4 years old when this film came out. I did not see it at the time, but I remember the marketing for it. I remember the toy packaging, the back of the packaging, seeing the original version of this creature, and it had an impression on me, along with, of course, the xenomorph itself. So to me, I always have a soft spot for Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection because they were like the new hot Alien movies out at the time when I was a kid, and I was seeing stuff in comic shops and KB Toys and stuff like that, and I was kind of like, oh, I kind of want to watch those movies. And it wasn't until a couple years later that I watched the whole series. But yeah, I've always liked the film. I like this creature design. I think that some of the alternative concepts that ADI had in mind for the creature would have been a little bit better. I actually like the tweaks that Hasbro did with their Collector Series Signature Series version of this creature. He's a little bit thinner. There's a little bit less of a gut. There's less of like a saggy chest area, and there aren't really any eyes in there. It's got a skull face, but it's hollow in the eye sockets. Where in the movie, it's like a little bit chubbier. It's got like a belly. It's got like some, sagginess in the chest area, and it's got very expressive eyes. But I still really like the design. And while I have this one out, here's our comparison here. So this is 1997, really good figure for 1997. This was not really a kid's toy. This was marketed as a collector series. So this was kind of bridging the gap between the kid-oriented Kenner figures and the McFarlane NECA collector-oriented action figures. So this was kind of bridging the gap. We're kind of in between in regards to level of detail, paint apps, accuracy, scale. But this was a really, really nice representation. But this was the only newborn figure we had that had a wide release. There were some companies that did like model kits and stuff like that, but it was really neglected for a while. So this was a decent enough figure to use along your McFarlane and NECA figures, and I still really, really like it. I like both of these figures equally. I think this is really impressive for 97. And thankfully you can still get this line for a really good value. It's one of my favorite lines of figures in general, especially Alien figures, because like I said, it's my first exposure to the franchise and the creature. But it is great to finally have an official NECA, 100% movie accurate, revised version of this figure that is also in better scale too. That version I just showed you, the Hasbro one, was about a little bit bigger than the human figures and the Xeno figures, but this creature is actually much larger than anything else you see in the film, and you don't really get a sense of it until they do like a wide shot when Ripley's approaching it inside the hangar bay of the Betty, and when you actually see the creature here. Now, keep in mind, I have the creature kind of crouching a little bit with these digigrade legs, so even still, look how large it is compared to Ripley. Now, I got the Ripley last week and reviewed her on this channel. So both Ripley and the newborn were the two figures I was most excited for in this new Resurrection series. The Queen I will get, but I will get to her when I get to her. I'm not in a huge hurry because she is just a repaint, although I do like her better in her Resurrection colors, the brownish kind of rusty color. And the Alien Warrior I do need to get as well. I ordered it with the newborn, and they were supposed to both come together from NECA Club, and they sent me a newborn and another Ripley, and I checked the packing slip because I was like, maybe I ordered another Ripley by mistake, and I had selected the newborn and the Warrior. I messaged them like on Thursday, and then they messaged me back saying, well, we'll get back to you on Monday. I already know what they're going to say because this has happened to me before. They're going to say, well, send us the wrong figure back. When we get it and we make sure that there's nothing wrong with it, that you didn't do anything to it, then we'll send you the correct item. And, you know, meanwhile, at that point, it's like 2 weeks after I placed the initial order. So it's totally pointless. It'll be at retail at that point. So, you know, NECA has absolutely incredible artistry and products. I love the creative team. All the people you see listed at the bottom of the packaging here, Randy Falk, Kyle Windrix, all the people that work on the actual product. But customer service, you know, all that kind of stuff, they're still the worst of the worst as far as toy companies go. Now, I do have the McFarlane Alien here just to show you a quick size comparison. So here's the McFarlane version of the Resurrection Alien clone. So you can see it's still much larger than your typical Alien. Again, even when they're semi-crouched with the digigrade legs. You could fully extend him and make him like the same size as that Ultimate Assassin Predator, but I mean, it wouldn't stand like that. I'm not going to do that. I don't know how well it would balance, but you do have a stand included here, which is really nice of them. They should have included a stand like this with the Assassin Predator, but personally I would have preferred that it be translucent, because then it would have been more consistent with the other stands they gave us, like the one with the Queen and the one with the Dog Alien. Obviously the ideal situation is to get a diorama-esque detailed stand like we got with Rodan, but Rodan and Mothra were both smaller figures. They felt like a little bit cheaper made, so I could understand why they could put more resources into the base then. So here, obviously, all the effort went into the figure, and we got a very simple stand, which is fine. I'm just glad we got one. Packaging real quick. This is an Ultimate figure. I always assumed they would just make him in a regular clamshell and just like curled up, but it's cool that he is a Deluxe, excuse me, not an Ultimate. But an Ultimate would be if it was one of the Predators that had all the extra accessories. I do think as far as accessories go, they could have given us a swappable head. He does have that very noticeable seam where the joint is in here. So since he has his very aggressive face on, I think it would have been cool if you could swap it out and put on the more like docile, kind of sympathetic looking sad face. And then also maybe a swappable hand. Maybe one that's all bloody and has some of DeStefano's skull there for when he crushes that guy's head. Really cool scene. Put some pulp in his palm. That would be neat. So I like the simplicity here. You know, I love the poster. I like that they incorporated that in the packaging. This is embossed, which is really cool. And I like how they put the font down here. It even looks like the font that's on the poster that says Sigourney Weaver, Winona Ryder. But it says Deluxe Newborn Action Figure. And same font, same placement. Because at first I was like, whoa, does that have their names on it? And then when I actually read it, I realized what it said. But it's cool. I like how they had the glow effect down for NECA as well. Really nice diorama pics in there. Really, really cool. I think that's actually their Alien 3 diorama in there for the interior of the prison, but it looks close enough to the hangar that they might as well use it. Great diorama shot in there. And then I like how here, kind of like with their Terminator figures, that they have an image from the film bordering this, and the interior is an image from the film. It's just the Betty Hangar Bay, but when you pull this out, there's actually an image of Call in the background stepping through the doorway. So this is right before she comes in and, you know, tries to shut the door. But she's like really, there's a lot of heavy shadowing over her, so they probably didn't have permission to use her likeness in any way. Would have loved a Call figure, but I don't know how much Winona would demand for the use of her likeness. And really they're only going to get like 1, maybe 2 figures out of her. I am surprised that NECA put all this new tooling into a creature that I'm curious if it's really going to sell that well. I hope it does, because I think it's it's a part of the Alien series and history, so even if you're not a big fan of it, you should have it in your collection, and there's a lot of work that's gone into it. But yeah, I mean, they really can't re-release this guy in any way unless he's in some kind of different packaging years from now, if there's a demand for him to return, if he goes up in price on eBay like other creatures like the Pred Alien and stuff. But so onto the figure itself, we're going to take a look at his articulation. Well, real quick, as far as paint goes, I think he is actually cast in this color, this kind of yellowish greenish coloring, and I think there's just a wash of a really dirty looking, grimy looking green over him with some subtle flesh tones on this back, what would basically be his dome forming into his spine. And then there's a really nice black wash inside the skull face that looks wet. It looks like his eyes are actually in there and alive. And I love the paint that they used on the teeth and the mouth. We get a lot of good close-up shots of its face in the film where he's kind of roaring at the screen. And I think that is just spot on. Really cool. Lots of nice details for its, I'll say, abdominal area. And it's interesting that they included that because the Hasbro one did not, because Fox had that removed digitally from the film. They couldn't go back and refilm all the scenes to kind of like conceal that, but NECA incorporated it, which is cool. Movie accuracy and all that. And so as far as articulation goes, this is one of their most articulated figures, but it's also kind of scary to move because even though this figure wasn't very stiff, it's so like lanky. I'm worried that the tiny joints are going to break. I actually heard a real loud snap when I went to move the elbow, and I thought I busted it. I was like, oh my gosh, because I was already bummed that I didn't get the Alien Warrior and they sent me another Ripley. And then when I went to move this, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't review either of them. But I guess that was just like dry paint or glue or something that snapped. But he's in good condition. So we have this really ugly, noticeable seam joint in the head, which is, obviously going to be more noticeable if you pivot his head down. If you pivot his head up, it's a little less noticeable. His head didn't really move around like that in the film. I don't remember him really being able to move his head much. I always thought he kind of had to turn his whole body, because again, he's a mutation, he's an abomination. I would have preferred that they don't put that articulation in there and it's just one solid piece. I don't think anyone would have complained. There are some toy companies and some collectors that are just obsessed with articulation, and they will totally sacrifice a sculpt for articulation. NECA generally does not do that. They normally can conceal their articulation really well in their xenomorphs, particularly because they're biomechanical, so you can incorporate that in there very nicely. Here, it did not happen, and that's probably because this is a fleshier looking creature. Still really, really incredible figure though.